Hello, hello, hello. I am going to be reading from the Writer's Almanac. Writer's Almanac for Wednesday, February the 8th, 2012. It's 1:10 a.m. I'm still doing this. It's crazy. It's the birthday of poet Elizabeth Bishop. She was born in Massachusetts in 1911. She went to Vassar, where she really began her career as a poet. Her mentor was the poet Marianne Moore, who taught Bishop that she could write poems that weren't about big ideas like love or death, but just about the observation of ordinary things. Elizabeth Bishop was a slow, meticulous writer. She published just 101 poems during her lifetime. It's the birthday of best-selling novelist John Grisham. He was born in Jonesboro, Arkansas in 1955, another Arkansan. He became a successful lawyer and then decided to write a novel based on one of his court cases. He spent 3 years writing A Time to Kill in 1989, but only a few thousand copies were printed and it didn't sell out on his first run. So he read Writer's Digest magazine and found an article about the rules of suspense. And he used that formula to write a thriller about a law student who realizes that the firm he works for is connected to the mafia. That book was The Firm in 1991, and it was a huge bestseller. And John Grisham went on to write The Pelican Brief in 1992, The Rainmaker in 1995, and many more bestsellers. Runaway Jury is my favorite. It's the birthday of Kate Chopin. Chopin, and I'm having the hardest time with names right now. I think it's in Poland it would be Chopin, but I doubt seriously it's that. I'd say Chopin. She was born in St. Louis, Missouri in 1850. She came from a wealthy family. Her father was a successful businessman, and her mother was a beautiful socialite from one of the city's oldest Creole families. Kate herself was a Southern belle, and she was a devoted wife and a mother of 6 children. But then her husband died, and soon after that her mother died. Chopin was depressed. Her family doctor thought that she was a very good letter writer, so he encouraged her to try writing fiction as a way to stay occupied. Over the next 15 years, Kate Chopin wrote almost 100 short stories and sketches and 2 novels. At Fault, which was published in 1890, and The Awakening in 1899. The Awakening is a story of Edna Pontellier, who gave up her role as wife and mother, has an affair, and eventually walks into the sea, perhaps committing suicide. And when it was published, Kate Chopin was censored and criticized. But now, she is considered an important early feminist author, and The Awakening is considered a classic of American fiction. I wonder, has that been turned into a movie? That's one of those things it should be. Or at least a play. It's the birthday of Neal Cassady, born in 1926 in Salt Lake City. He was a con man, in and out of jail, and finally moved to New York City, where he met Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg. The Beats idolized Cassady. He embodied everything they embraced in theory. He was a self-made man. He had been educated on the streets by bums and crooks. He was smart and free and charming. Neal Cassady appears in the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test by Tom Wolfe. In Howl, Allen Ginsberg refers to him as, quote, NC, secret hero of these poems, unquote. But Neal Cassady is most famous as the inspiration for Dean Moriarty, the hero in Jack Kerouac's On the Road, published in 1957. I have a poem here by Mr. Paul Hostovsky. It's late, so I'm just going. Did I say that right? I didn't say that right. Paul Hostovsky. And you can look him up if you want to know about him. It's called Exegesis. We couldn't have been more than 12 or 13 sitting on that green bench in the late 60s or early 70s, me and Michael Zucker, who was much more savvy and more world-weary than I. And when I asked him to please explain the meaning of the words to a song by Carly Simon, who was simply gorgeous, that much is plain, after we resolved the essential question of whether or not she was wearing a bra in that photo of her with the blue top and thick lips on her album cover. I don't get it, I said. You're so vain. You probably think the song is about you, but the song is about him, isn't it? I asked Zucker, holding my palm in the air like one who's trying to ascertain the truth about whether or not it started to rain. Zucker looked away then, gingerly fingering the green slats as though he was reading the carved names of the lovers and obscenities tactually. Then he took a deep breath and exhaled miserably. Took the album cover out of my hands and gazed a while at Carly Simon, who was gorgeous, famous, braless, and older than me and Zucker put together. That's the point, he said. She's in love with him. Exegesis by Paul Hostovsky from A Little in Love, A Lot, published by Main Street Rag in 2011, reprinted with permission for the Writer's Almanac. Production credits include hosts being Garrison Keillor, writers Betsy Allister, Priscilla Kinter, Heather McPherson, and Holly Vanderhaar, technical director Thomas Schwetzger. The engineer is Noah Smith, the coordinator's Nick Vetter, and permissions are obtained by Miss Kathy Roach. And as Garrison Keillor always says at the end of his Writer's Almanac, be well, do good work, and keep in touch.